It's Monday, and we're talking emergencies today.
The conversation starts now.
Yes, and we gotta figure out. It's Monday on Foster Life. Whew. This week is Valentine's Day week.
Love week.
Oh yeah? I'm from Loveland, Colorado, and that's the Valentine's capital of the United States. And so my mom used to send our Valentine's Day to the post office, get them stamped, and then we'd get them in the mail so that we could have it. Another cool thing they do in my hometown is because it's Loveland, you can buy these wood hearts, and so I could put Rob, Hearts, Courtney, and then they hang it on a light post for a cost, of course, and it helps to raise money for something. And then also they have Miss Valentine's. When you're in high school, you can get nominated to be Miss Valentine, and that's a big deal too. With the Valentine Day parade, all that stuff. So what are you guys doing for Valentine's?
I'll be in Florida.
Oh, you will?
Yep.
So you won't have a Valentine's in Florida?
Not in Florida. I'll have to find something from home or at home, I guess.
Oh yeah. So I always make a big thing out of Valentine's. What do you do for Valentine's Day?
Well, I'm, it's just me and the dog. So we're doing Valentine's Day.
Yeah.
It's nationally recognized on the 13th, but
Oh, good.
we're going to do it on the 15th. There's a new movie coming out. We want to go see that. We're going to have dinner.
Good.
That's just me and my 3 girlfriends.
That's awesome. We're going to talk about all kinds of emergencies, and I have to let you know, as a foster parent, I have no clue on a lot of this stuff. This is just stuff that Tristan and I kind of thought up one day, and we're like, well, what if this would happen, or what if that would happen? So, Courtney, I'm hoping that you can answer our questions, because a lot of this stuff we have no clue on, and we'll be talking emergencies when we come back right after this on Foster Life.
The conversation starts this week on Foster Life.
Crap. It's Monday on Foster Life. Courtney's always with us on Monday, and Tristan and I like it when she's here. Tristan really likes it because he doesn't have to talk as much.
No, I enjoy it when she's here, but I'll still talk just as much.
Oh, okay.
I'm feeling happy for a Monday.
Oh, you are?
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good for a Monday.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty good for a Monday too. What about you, Courtney?
I'm ready for Friday.
Oh, you're ready for Friday already?
I'm ready
Oh,
for
see?
Friday.
She's ready for Friday, and we're cool because it's Monday, so we're right there. Today we're talking emergencies, and a lot of this stuff that we're talking about today, I don't even know the answers to, and that's kind of why we decided that it would be a good idea for us to talk about it. So the first thing I think let's talk about is a medical emergency. So a child that's in care, something has happened. something very serious has happened, and I don't really want to give it a thing because then that kind of feels creepy to me.
We don't need to get gory on
Yeah,
this.
so, but something major has happened. It's an emergency. You're going to the emergency room. And as you know,
This is where the conversation starts, only on Foster Life.
sometimes that emergency room, especially if they go by ambulance, that can go pretty quick. And decisions start being made pretty quick by the emergency room and by the doctors, especially if it's a big emergency. So tell us what we should do.
So the first thing you have to do is you have to make the doctor aware that this child is not legally in your custody. They're placed with you through the state.
Right?
And most doctors will understand what that means and that there are certain things that can be done and certain things that can't.
Okay?
So that's the first thing to do. The second thing to do is call the on-call worker for your area, your caseworker if it's during the day, or whatever emergency contact you have for your caseworker or for the children's division.
Right. And I want to let you know, if you're like our state, when you call our regular number, it doesn't give you the emergency number. So when your kids are placed, make sure that you get that number and go ahead and hang it on your refrigerator. And then I like to carry it in my wallet too, in case there was like a car accident or anything like that, so that we always have those emergency numbers. And so I want to encourage you to do that. So then once, so the doctor says that they need to have an MRI or a CAT scan or any of that stuff. Do we need to have any permission for that, or do we go ahead and have them start that stuff?
So generally, for MRIs and CAT scans, they wouldn't need to be under any kind of anesthesia. So you can go ahead and have those things done while you're working on getting a hold of a caseworker and figuring out what's going to be the next steps so that you have somebody there who can make those decisions.
Okay. And you sparked a really interesting thing. So you said anesthesia. So what if it's a situation where the child's in a lot of pain? Can they go ahead and start the pain medicine and that type of thing? Or do we want to get a hold of the caseworker first?
No, generally they can give that kind of pain medication. Some states are different, so definitely check with your caseworker beforehand, before any emergency happens. Know
Right.
the protocol. But generally, if you were to call me and this child was on my caseload, I would say, okay, what kind of pain medication has he had already?
Right.
And you might say, well, they had to give him morphine because his bone is, whatever. And then it's like, okay, I'll just make note that they've given him morphine. Do you know how many milligrams? If not, I would just talk to the doctor in that case.
Right. And just, and also always making sure that you know which medications they're on. Because if there was an emergency, most doctors want to know what they've had already for the day, especially when we're talking about pain medicine, because if we're on mood altering medicines and that kind of stuff, to already slow them down, they need to know how many milligrams they've taken and what they've had that day so that they can make a safe call on how much pain medication to give them.
Yep.
So we always want to make sure that we have that correct information. So you know that the child is going to have surgery. So a lot of times, a doctor will say, and I've been in this before in my situation. So they'll say, we're going to do this CAT scan, and then after we get the CAT scan back, you're going to be headed for surgery. So if we know that there's going to be surgery, what has to happen in order for that to take place in the timely manner that the doctor needs to do it?
So generally, if you know that they have time for a CAT scan,
Right.
then if there is a time frame that a caseworker or the legal guardian, so a children's division worker, can come down to the hospital and be there to sign the paperwork. If it's more of a situation where there's been a really bad incident, the child needs surgery right now, no time for CAT scan, no time for MRI, we have to get in there, we need to find out what's going on. In our state, that is a situation where they follow the doctor's advice. The caseworker will come down and sign the paperwork as fast as possible, but likely the child's probably already in surgery by the time the worker gets there, and that's going to be okay,
Right.
as long as everybody's kept up to date and the judge is informed later.
How does the caseworker normally stay there at the hospital whenever the surgery's going on? I know they have a big workload, so how does that work?
I think that kind of depends on the caseworker. If it were my kid, I'd be there, 100%. But not all caseworkers have that kind of time. Not all caseworkers are able to sit there. Not all caseworkers know the family. Some of them are just on-call workers because it's 2 in the morning
Right.
and something's happened, and they've been there. They signed the paperwork. Call me when he's out of surgery. Call me if something goes wrong, and I'll come back down.
I see.
Right. And I think the other thing to remember as foster parents, when you're speaking with the case worker, I know you're in emergency mode, but we have like 10 kids. So if you need anything, all of my caseworkers would want to know that. Even if my kids are already adopted, I have really good caseworkers, and so I said, hey, I'm really going to need to find respite because I want to stay here at the hospital with this child while they're in. That caseworker is going to help you do that. If you say, hey, I got our kids covered, but I got 2 that need this or that, usually your caseworker is going to help you with that. If tomorrow there's a visit for one of the children and it's not the one that's in the hospital, usually the caseworker is going to help you with that and figure out that stuff. So really, when you have them and you have their attention, be thinking about what services you might need to kind of get you through that.
And I know it's really hard, and everybody says this, like, oh, it's a panic moment, stay calm.
Mhm.
If you can't stay calm, all you have to do is hand your cell phone to the nurse,
Yep.
and the caseworker will handle it.
Yep.
They will say, I'm the legal guardian of this child. They're in state care. What is going on?
Yep.
What has to happen right now?
Mhm.
And that's, I mean, it's totally natural. This is,
Yep.
somebody you've taken in. This is essentially your child.
Right.
And it's perfectly natural to panic, but
Yeah.
if you can stay calm, that's going to be the easiest thing for the child, for the caseworker, for the nurses and the doctors.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes you being emotional might cause the child who's sitting there on the bed freaking out about their broken arm or something to go crazy and cause
Right.
more damage than good.
Yeah, and sometimes our emotions, so maybe they have an appendicitis and you're kind of freaked out about it because they got to go to surgery because it's going to rupture and stuff. But just remember how you react might cause some worry with the kid, because if you react very hysterically, the kid might think, oh man, I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to make it through this. So we want to try to remain calm, take a deep breath, and do the best we can. Because once they're off to surgery, that's a good time for you to break down and kind of deal with stuff. But at that moment, we want to try to be as calm as we can, even though it can be very, very stressful.
Yeah. Well, and in that panic, you have to, in those moments, you can't panic because you have to remember, I'm not legally allowed to sign anything for this child.
Right.
So when they're handing you these forms, you can fill them out, but legally, you can't sign them.
Right.
They have to be sent to a caseworker, or a caseworker has to come down. The legal guardian has to sign these papers.
And one of my caseworkers made it very clear to me in Missouri, and I'm not sure how it is with all states, but if I were to sign, that hospital could try to make me responsible for anything that wasn't covered with their insurance.
Yep.
And so we definitely, as foster parents, don't want to take on that type of financial responsibility. So you want to make sure that everything is done correctly so that, there's no mess in the end.
Right.
In a stressful situation. When we come back, we're talking more about emergencies today. We got a lot of information that I think is going to be helpful right after this. emergencies today. We just were talking about if the child had a medical emergency. So now let's turn the tables. So the foster parent has a medical emergency. Like, for instance, when I had colon cancer, I had an abscess in my colon, and if that ruptured, I was going to die. So I had to go to surgery right away. There was no, it was like an hour. I was in the emergency room, and I was headed in for a 12-hour surgery. So in that case, obviously, my partner would need to be there with me while I'm having the surgery. We have 10 kids. What needs to happen?
Well, you have 10 kids. Most of them are adopted.
Right.
So who would you call to sit with them?
So usually grandma or a friend or an aunt, uncle, somebody like that.
In our state, that's called prudent parenting. It's
Okay.
perfectly acceptable for you to call a family member, a family friend, somebody you trust
Right.
to sit with your children while there's an emergency.
Right.
In other states, that's not an option, and I don't want to speak for other states because I don't have quite as much knowledge over
Right.
50 states. I do know Missouri. Essentially what would happen is, if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and you go into the hospital, you have somebody there with your kids, you know
Right.
your children are safe.
Yep.
That's what's important. If it's somebody that maybe you use for respite that will pick up the phone, you can always call them too.
Yep.
And then just send your caseworker a text message. Be like, hey, I'm in the hospital. Here's what's going on. I'll call you as soon as things are good, but my kids are taken care of. This is who they're with. This is their contact information.
Or
Yep.
give your spouse's phone number too. They could always contact the spouse as
Yeah,
well.
and I mean, the
If they
caseworker
needed more
generally has that
information.
information too. But I mean, just providing that information, a lot of times your caseworker is going to say, great, you got the kids taken care of. I'll go in and check on them. What else do you need while you recover?
Right.
Do you need long-term respite? Do you need in-home help? What do you need?
Right. Am I going to lose my kids because I get sick?
You shouldn't. You should never lose your kids because you're sick. Everybody gets sick, just like you should never lose your kids if you get a divorce. Everybody has issues like that. Happens in everybody's family. What we're going to do is we're going to try and support you the best we can.
Right.
If it's an illness where you're going to be gone for a really long time and you don't have somebody who can care for the children all the time, maybe you're a single foster mom. It's just you and your kiddo. You have nobody. We might put them in a temporary emergency placement that can last for up to 30 days while you recover.
Right.
That way they're safe. The family will bring them down to visit you in the hospital or in recovery, wherever you need to be. But the goal would be to put them back in your home where stability can be maintained.
When my daughter was young, I had to have a major surgery. And I remember telling her caseworker, I said, no, we're not going to lose her because I'm having this major surgery. And she looked at me and she said, think what that would do to her. If we just took you away and put her somewhere else, because, people have surgery, people get sick, and families stick together when people get sick. And she's like, we're going to get through this, you're fine.
As social
And you have to
workers,
remember that.
we think of every move as a death to that child.
Yeah.
It's at every move. So every time you move them, you're disconnecting them from somebody they've built a relationship with.
Right.
So if you get sick and we move them and we just say, we're not going to work with you anymore because you're sick,
Right.
you've done a disservice to a child who's already been through trauma.
Right.
So we're never going to do that unless you ask us, you say, look, I've got stage 4 cancer, I'm not going to be able to care for them, I still want to be involved as long as I can, but I don't want them to, they can't be here anymore.
Right.
But our goal is to keep them with you.
Right. Exactly. The planned, so the parent, what is it called? Prudent
It's called
parent?
prudent parenting. If you have a travel letter or a placement letter,
Yeah.
on the Missouri form it reads in locos parentis.
Yeah.
I don't speak Latin, I don't know what that means, but essentially it's the prudent parenting law.
Right. And the reason why we did that, and I was involved in that process with the state of Missouri when we did that, and the reason why we did it is we felt like we trust foster parents to take care of these kids. We should really trust foster parents to put them with good people when they can't be around. And it's done a lot of things. One, it makes the kid feel better, because when we would have to take breaks, or say we went on a vacation and we sent our child to grandma and grandpa's, but the state, wanted something else, then again, the kids they felt like second-class citizens, and they didn't feel like they got to go do what all the rest of our kids got to do, and maybe they were being adopted. So it's done some really cool things with that. The biggest thing is the responsibility is on you as a foster parent. So just make sure that they're in a really safe home, safe environment, and that you would you're putting them where you would put your own kids.
And you also want to let them know that this is only temporary too.
Yep.
We will be back, and we will be a family.
Yep, exactly. And you and your kids need to know that too, because sometimes when we're sick, our kids automatically think that they're gonna move or whatever, and so you need to make them know, hey, I gotta have this big surgery, but you're still a part of this family, you still live with us, you're not going anywhere, Courtney's not gonna come and take you to another home. Everything is status quo. I just need to be in the hospital, get this taken care of, and get it done. We're talking emergencies today. We'll be back right after this.
The conversation starts this week on Foster Life.
We're talking emergencies today on Foster Life. All things emergencies. And Courtney had a little emergency and had to go. So we're going to finish it up real quick. So basically what I was hearing from Courtney was communicate with the caseworker.
Mm-hmm.
Rely on them for as many services to help you through whatever it is. So if you have a tornado that comes through your house, or a fire, a flood, a hurricane, just make sure that you're letting your worker know what your plan is and what you're going to do.
As soon as possible.
Yeah, as soon as you can. And they realize, obviously, if you just were through a tornado and your whole house is leveled, they realize it's probably going to take you a little bit to get in touch with them.
Mm-hmm.
But just as soon as you can, communicate, rely on them for services, and let them know exactly what it is that you need in order for that next step. And if you can't get there by vehicle, there's always an emergency responder that can get you to where you need to go.
Right.
March 2nd,
Good old Branson.
we're going to be at Branson, Missouri on spring break, and we're going to be talking about vacations that you can do that are economical for your family. If you want to join us in Branson on March 2nd, no matter where you live, it's $5 to get in. You get to play mini golf. We will have food, prizes, live music, and
A chance to be a part of the live studio audience.
yeah, you can be a part of the live studio audience, and all of our shows, cast members will be there, like Mama T, Courtney, Rosley, myself, and Tristan will all be there.
Yep, Roz will be definitely happy to see you all too.
Yeah, and he'll probably even take a picture with you and sign an autograph if you would like. So we will love to have you there. Bring the kids. It's a family event, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and we hope to see you in Branson on March the 2nd at the Wildwood Mini Golf, and that is right behind the old Grand Palace, my old stopping grounds in Branson, Missouri. Till next time on Foster Life, stay safe, and I hope you don't have to use any emergency protocol. See you later. Bye-bye.